Alright, I just hit record. Record was indignant about it, but it understands.
Alrighty. So your voice is being recorded and my voice is being recorded.
This can only be a bad thing.
An interview, and it feels a little bit surreal.
So this is what an interview is like.
Well, you probably have more experience than me. Like, for example, I've never had a job interview.
Yeah, I've had a few of those, actually.
So, and, just be natural, be yourself, the Donkey Kong Country Atlas community, which would likely be the highest percentage of our listeners would want you to be the real you. Can you do that?
Yes. The real me is incredibly boring, so I can do that.
Let's see. Well, first off, do you remember your first experience with Donkey Kong?
Now, are we talking Donkey Kong Country or first Donkey Kong experience of all?
Donkey Kong in general, yeah, the character.
I'm not even sure if that was pre-Donkey Kong Country or if it was a Donkey Kong Country game, to be honest. It's very hazy, many, many moons ago. I think Donkey Kong Country probably would have been my first Donkey Kong experience. And yeah, I do. I remember being overwhelmed by it to a degree, because I was just getting into gaming, didn't have my own Nintendo system or any of those things, and I was visiting one of my primary school / elementary school friends, and yeah, he had a new game he wanted to show off, and I was hoping it was a Mario game. It was not. It was Donkey Kong Country, and I was overwhelmed by the amazing 3D graphics, and I just wanted to play Mario. And that's actually really embarrassing to look back on, that my favorite games of all time originally scared me.
So how did you first come to obtain Donkey Kong Country?
Well, it was actually that same friend of mine. I decided I did like it after originally being scared by it. Scared is an exaggeration. I was just, a little overwhelmed with the flashiness of it. Yeah, he decided to exploit me for money, and he lent me his Super Nintendo and his copy of Donkey Kong Country, and charged me something like $20 for the weekend, which was a complete rip-off. I mean, it was worth it in its own right, but yeah, not much of a friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I first had it in my own bedroom. But yeah, many years later.
You know how long you did that?
How long I borrowed the game for?
How long you rented it, I guess.
It was just a weekend, I think. Like, he gave it to me Friday at school, and I gave it back to him on Monday, I think.
And you already had wait, so he also gave you the Super Nintendo too?
Yeah, it came with the SNES, so it wasn't just the game.
Was Donkey Kong the only game though?
I think he gave me Mario All-Stars as well. Yeah, not sure. But
you mostly used it for Donkey Kong, right?
I think I used it for 90% Donkey Kong and played a bit of Mario as well.
Okay, so how did you become the proud owner of a copy of Donkey Kong Country 1 for the SNES?
Well, same friend yet again. I borrowed it from him at a later stage when he had new games that he was more interested in. And he kind of forgot to ask for it back, and I kind of forgot to give it back. And I think a few years later, I asked him about the game and said, "Hey, I still have your Donkey Kong Country game. Do you want it back?" And he told me I could keep it. So I guess that $20 ended up buying my copy.
And yeah, that game wasn't cheap. Probably like 50 or 60.
I really don't recall. My first-hand video game purchase wouldn't have been for quite a few years after that, so I don't really remember what prices they were. But yeah, I'd say you're about right.
Because actually, here's an interesting piece of trivia you don't know. In the VHS of my very first Christmas, and I was born in November, so I was a month and 10 days then. But it was my brother. He gets he got Donkey Kong Country 2. And
Wait. He got Donkey Kong Country 2 or Donkey Kong Country as well?
Donkey Kong Country 2.
Okay, gotcha.
Like the sequel, yeah. Because remember, I'm the same age as Donkey Kong Country 2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I think my sister, who disowned me, made a comment saying like, "Wow, 70." She said it was $70-something, so she was shocked by the price. So is there So I guess so. You were playing. Do you remember how long it took you to beat Donkey Kong Country? Roughly, did you finish it in a day or a week, or how long did it take?
I have no recollection. Definitely wouldn't have been done in a day or a weekend or anything like that. And it also depends if you're asking about full completion or just beating the final boss or what. Yeah, I don't really remember. I was more of an experienced player. Like I just played for the experience. Didn't try to go for speed. Didn't try to go for maximum percentage or anything like that. So it could have been quite a few weeks of gameplay, I'd say.
So for a while, would it be fair to say that was the only game you played at all?
Let me think. See, I don't recall what other games I had, if I had any others. It definitely would have got most of my attention, but having two little brothers that were also into video games, they might have had other friends to borrow from and that sort of thing, and we would have shared the console. Yeah, it's tough to remember.
Now, what about Donkey Kong Country 2? Do you remember the promotion for that, or anticipating for that game?
I do remember a local video game store, like I guess it was a video rental store, VHS tapes and whatnot. They had a little kiosk set up with Donkey Kong Country 2. I think every time I saw it, it was in I think it was Main Brace Mayhem, and that beautiful music, the Jib Jig theme was just exquisite, and it captivated me entirely. And I always wanted to play it, but I was always nervous because I was in a public place and there'd be people around watching me play. So I think I only played it once or twice, even though I saw it on display there up to 10 times during the season. But it had me excited.
Do you remember pre-November, whenever in 1995? Do you remember the promotion and anticipation for the release of Donkey Kong Country 2?
Such as like TV and that sort of thing?
Or wherever, maybe posters, announcing the date at local shops?
Nah, I have no recollection of that sort of thing. I would only occasionally be in the vicinity of shops and that sort of thing. I lived rurally, like out in the jungle. So no, in the hills. Not in a very developed area. So I missed out on a lot of opportunity to see commercial stuff. But that's okay. I didn't mind that at all.
So how'd you come to own Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Conquest?
Ooh. I think I eventually bought that from a friend who lost interest, so that was a deliberate purchase. But yeah, that would have been in high school days. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because you were 11 when Donkey Kong Country 2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
So there was quite a bit of gap before you could really appreciate the evolution of the series.
Yeah. I mean, your questions seem to be about me owning the game, and most of my gameplay doesn't really occur from games that I own, or at least it didn't when I was younger. A friend of mine who I played soccer with, I don't remember ever playing Donkey Kong Country with him, but Donkey Kong Country 2, I remember him having that, and I would go to his place after soccer, and we'd play that for hours, and it was great fun.
So you didn't feel left out about not owning the game. You could still experience it for free and with friends.
Yeah, I think that was actually better. It was better to, have that excuse to go visit other people and, share the game experience rather than just, be sitting in a bedroom playing a video game on your own.
Mm-hmm. So you managed to finish it together, I presume?
No idea. Yeah.
Did you do that, where you take turns depending on the characters?
We would have done that a bit, but I think
Do you remember, were you typically Diddy or Dixie?
I reckon I probably was Dixie because he would have had more experience with the game, and Diddy would be better for the pro, and Dixie's a bit better for a beginner.
And he wouldn't want to be the girl either.
Who knows?
Interesting enough, we were kind of I was experiencing Donkey Kong Country 2 at the same age with the release of the Game Boy Advance version, and I had a little friend. They were neighbor kids, and I also got them into Donkey Kong, and we were pretty excited about there being a new character. And because we were little boys,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of tried to deny that Dixie Kong was a girl. So for some reason, I think I told you this, but we would call because we would also role play in real life and imagine that I was Diddy, and we would say the little brother was Dixie, and we would say her ponytail was actually a feather, actually some sort of Native American character. So I guess now I asked you about Donkey Kong Country 1, Donkey Kong Country 2. The question you have to ask: Donkey Kong Country 3. How did that come about for you?
This is the same friend as who I played Donkey Kong Country 2 with. I remember one day after soccer, I ran up to him and just sort of excitedly asked, "Hey, can we play DKC 2?" And he said, "DKC 2? That's old school." And and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's so good." He's like, "Yeah, well, come back to my place and play DKC 3." And I hadn't even heard of it at that point. That was how I learnt that it even existed. So yeah, I was very excited to know that there was a new one. But I still wanted to play DKC 2 because I had just had so much a fondness for that game, and I thought, no matter how good the third one was, I would probably still prefer the second, and it has proven true over time, actually.
Most fans seem to think that the third one is the worst. Do you recall a sense of disappointment when you were playing that game?
Yeah, I have to admit I do. Everything about it just felt that little bit, I guess, cutesy compared to the awesomeness of DKC 2. I felt like it was a thematic step down with just everything felt that little bit less dangerous, a little bit less cool, a little bit less edgy, and having a baby character that would have little tantrums and stuff didn't really help that. So although it was a fantastic game, it never felt as cool as its predecessor.
And so, as you were getting interested in Donkey Kong Country from the early 90s to the early 2000s, would you say your interest ever waned? Was there ever a period of your life where you preferred a certain video game series over Donkey Kong Country?
Probably not in that time frame. But yeah, I guess my overall interest in video games, I'm not sure if it actually diminished or if I just put less emphasis on it. But yeah, there was a good amount of time where I don't really remember playing video games much, if at all. Trying to think if there were any other games. I suppose computer games might have taken some precedence when I finally got a computer that I could play games on, and spent time with friends that had LAN parties and that sort of thing. So I guess Nintendo, I guess fell into the shadows just a little bit for me.
So, how big was your circle of real life friends that obsessed over Donkey Kong? Were you the biggest fan, or did you kind of feel like a loner with that interest, that fervent interest, or how did that work in your real life circle?
The only part of that I heard was you asking how did that work. I
was asking about in real life, you're among your peers, your friends, the interest in Donkey Kong, how present was that? Were you kind of the only hardcore Donkey Kong fan, or were the other kids? Was their interest comparable to yours?
I don't remember there being much interest apart from, well, obviously there were the friends that I've mentioned, who I played Donkey Kong Country with, and then DKC 2 and 3. I was fortunate to have those friends be excited about the games and you know, to be able to visit them and play with them and that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess I'd have to say that although those friends weren't they weren't members of my core circles of friends, so I only really saw them, you know, on I guess special occasions or whatever. Yeah, most of my friends didn't seem to care, but I was lucky to have a few that did.
So, when did you start developing your online community of Donkey Kong fanatics? Did that happen before or after you started the Donkey Kong database?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I really had anything of a community before. I mean, the Donkey Kong database didn't even have a forum, if I recall. I think it had a guest book, maybe, but I don't remember there being much in the way of community there. It was.
You actually did have a forum on the Donkey Kong database. I remember.
Oh, really?
I sent you your links to it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't recall. I mean, this is going back a ways, and I've been putting almost all of my effort into modern sites that I've been working on. But yeah, well, that's interesting that it did have a forum.
So I guess I'll ask you, what do you remember what caused you to want to make a website for the Donkey Kong TV show? Because I think you described yourself as the database being more focused on the TV show. So how did you get into the TV show, and what made you decide to start a website based on it?
My interest started when I guess I saw it in a magazine or something. Like I used to get I guess it was a weekly or a monthly, probably more likely monthly. That's what I reckon. NMS was the name of the magazine, Nintendo Magazine System, and yeah, it was an Australian magazine that had an article, like a tiny little article on the DKC TV show, and that was the first I'd heard of it, and got very excited that my favorite game series was being televised. And yeah, so I suppose I would have asked around amongst my friends and that sort of thing to see if anyone had heard of it or if it was any good or that sort of thing. And I mean, obviously, of course, it was going to be good. It had Donkey Kong in it, but yeah, I don't remember anyone having heard of it for, you know, the first few years of me asking around. Maybe if I really did ask around that long, I imagine I would have tried a little bit, then forgotten about it. But eventually, I found you know, someone at the same school as me who did have access to a channel that was showing the show, and yeah, got him to record videos of it for me, and that's how I first got got the first taste of the show. And I figured there'd be people out there like me that didn't know that the show existed or didn't know how to get access to it, and I thought, well, the internet would be a great way of sharing that with people. And being interested in creative technology, I thought, you know what, this is a great excuse to further my my web development skills, and yeah, I decided I'd put as much information out for people as I could.
And you designed the logo.
Yeah. Are we talking about the Donkey Kong database logo?
Yeah, they included Dixie Kong with their ponytail going down, and
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I can picture it. It had like a strange symbol as the basis of it, one that was completely unrelated to Donkey Kong. It was not really sure where it came from, but I just drew it on graph paper one day at school, I think, and I thought, you know what, that's a cool symbol. Of course it's not, but I thought it was, and it became the basis of the. I think I just added some Kongs to it, sort of idly when I you know, had a spare minute, and I thought, you know what, this will work, and I decided it could make the site logo.
And I remember being so infatuated with the background music, which was from the Donkey Kong TV show. I remember singing it to my third grade lunchroom peers.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so there's definitely a lot of love there. Um, so do you remember how long roughly you kept updating the site?
Again, this is the Donkey Kong database.
Yes,
I
yes.
I apologize. I should just stick with one site. I just there's so many that I've started on, and
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, no, I can't say I remember.
hmm Um, would you say it was a significant part of your life, or was it just, a little side project?
I'd say more of a side project, yeah, especially if I look at it, just sort of examine the site. It's not, little bits and pieces of hard work would have gone into it, but I think it was probably more of a way of grouping together various little tiny projects that I had worked on. Like I remember there being a 3D model I'd started working on, maybe a couple of those, one for Cranky's Cabin in the TV show, and perhaps Bluster's Barrel Works, is it? The Barrel Factory. Yeah, I think I started on a few 3D projects. Again, this was, I think it was because I didn't have a way of getting screenshots. I thought, you know what, it's going to be sad if people can never see what these buildings look like, so I tried to actually reconstruct them in 3D for people to see what I was talking about. So, yeah, a lot of effort put in for something that would eventually be available on YouTube anyway.
And what was the your classmates' reaction? Because back then the internet was, an infant compared to what it is today. So, what was I imagine you told people. So, was there like a common reaction when you told people that you have a website? Because I think you were 15 when you started it.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I wasn't really one to promote my work amongst friends and that sort of thing, but I probably would have mentioned it. I do remember occasional expressions of appreciation from people that would see me working on various web projects, and it was always nice to know that what I was creating was impressive to some people. But I imagine it would have been the same way for me with various friends. I have a visitor. Hang on.
It's me.
Ah, welcome, Mrs. Qyzbud. Mrs. Qyzbud has entered the interview.
Hi.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, sorry.
No, she can participate.
You're welcome to participate if you'd like.
I don't have anything.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything interesting to say.
Do you have any dirty secrets about Mr. Qyzbud?
I'm sure she has plenty.
Yeah.
But no, I mean we could either wrap up the interview or press on. But I'd only give you
I
maybe
say
another
press
5
on,
minutes,
obviously.
because we don't have much time to hang out. So
Well, I'll exploit as much time as we got.
all right, 7:25 here, local evening time. You've got until 7:30.
Well, we'll see. Maybe you'll change your mind. So I guess I better talk about, I kind of want to go bit by bit, but I guess I'll rush straight to DonkeyKongCountryAtlas.com plug. So I'm curious. You are right now very famous for working on those maps, and so how long does it take for you to first describe what that is, and how long does it take you roughly to make each map?
Well, firstly, very famous is a gross exaggeration, but I'll allow it. I am perhaps best known for that. That's of all the things I do, that's probably one of the most known, and one of my favorite things to spend my time on. And yeah, I enjoy the finished result. They take a lot of time. First off, they took probably about 8 hours each, and that was before I started working on animated versions. And this was, I suppose, around 2007, 2008 maybe. I was just putting them together, pasting sprites and screenshots in Photoshop, and yeah, making them into separate layers to put on the website. That was, yeah, my early works. They were good, but they obviously they lack a lot of what makes the map special today. But yeah, they would have been probably roughly 8 hours of work each in their primitive states.
And what's kind of interesting is if you might not even realize this, but I'm sure I probably told you, but most people wouldn't realize if you Google Donkey Kong fan site, I think 3 of the results on the first page of Google will be related to you, and I think the other ones won't even really be active fan sites. However, in the 90s, there were Donkey Kong fan sites all over. So I guess why do you think it is that despite Donkey Kong Country is so well known, definitely a huge video game icon, why do you think there seems to be so little interest in fan pages?
I think a lot of that probably has to do with social media being a lot more easy and attractive for people to get into. They don't have to create their own communities because they're already out there, and no need to build a website because, I mean, like for starters, Wikipedia has like a wealth of game information on it, and it doesn't seem necessary to make fan sites anymore. That would be
well,
part of it.
I guess to challenge you, because there's a whole plethora of Mario fan sites and Pokemon fan sites. Like I remember, because I myself created a Donkey Kong fan website, spent so much time on that, and then eventually I came to realize, because I was of course disappointed because I wasn't getting attention for my work, I suddenly realized that there aren't really any Donkey Kong fans websites, and so what I ended up doing is I converted it into a Yoshi web page, and I want to say the traffic did increase, but my interest in working on the site kind of declined because I wasn't as passionate about it. So I would challenge that. I would say for whatever reason there's not enough loyal Donkey Kong fans out there.
Huh.
I guess you're just one of the few people with good taste.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. And that would be a shame. I would hope that there'd be more people with good taste out there, and there are a lot. One thing that would be a great answer to that, but I don't think it is the case, is that, well, what more do people need when I've made my fan site? Surely that's enough for everyone.
Exactly.
But no, I really don't think that is the case. I haven't. Yeah, I'm a bit. I guess I have tunnel vision when it comes to what I spend my time doing online, and I don't even know what other Donkey Kong fan sites are doing most of the time because I'm just so invested in what I'm creating, and that's.
But you do listen to the DK Vine podcast, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. I started listening to that recently, and it's great fun. Yeah, excellent.
Maybe they're going to listen to this.
Who knows? They might do.
I had this really good. Oh yeah, I love Donkey Kong Country too. However, oftentimes when I play it, I do get tired of it. Has there ever been a moment where you get tired or bored or sick of Donkey Kong?
No.
Because I feel that there isn't a replay value to it.
There's.
Do you disagree?
I don't disagree that you feel that, but I definitely don't feel it myself. We have 1 second left, and goodbye. No, I'll give you another minute or two. Yeah.
I knew I had an opinion. I had a feeling you'd increase it. But,
Yeah, well, you put a good question to me. I can't really just leave it at that, can I?
Yeah.
But having not been able to remember what you asked me, I guess I can just go. No, you better. What was the question? Just quickly again.
The question was, I guess for a lot of games, a huge struggle is replay value. And myself, when I, replay Donkey Kong levels, I do quickly get tired of it. So even though Donkey Kong has been part of your life for so long, one would think that you would get tired of it. So I guess what do you, so I guess the question was kind of two parts. Do you get tired of it? And what do you take away from constantly replaying it? Is it just, nostalgia, or is there a contemporary interest in you?
Well, what I enjoy most about the game is that it's just so damn fun. It's it plays really well. Like all of the Super Nintendo ones, have a lot in common with the way they play. Differences between them, of course, but I don't think any other games out there really nail that formula quite like these ones do. It's just really, really fun, really smooth, really quick. You cartwheel into a baddie, and your speed increases and that sort of thing. And you always get better at that. And the better you know a level, the more you can, I suppose, exploit these tricks to to have the game be more and more satisfying. So the better you are at the game, the better the game performs, and the more impressive what you do is, and it's a really good feeling.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel Retro Studios has done in taking over the franchise?
They've done a great job. It's quite a different feeling to the games, in that they, I guess the physics are notably different. There's a lot more momentum, less. There's lots of different little bits and pieces that do make it distinct. But I really enjoy what they have done, and I don't even have to see it as a different series to enjoy it. I can see it as a Donkey Kong Country continuation, and they've done a beautiful job.
And I asked you this earlier, but not while we recorded. How often do you play Donkey Kong today?
I play it probably a little bit each day. There'll be some days where I don't, but largely it's just for research purposes while I'm mapping, because that's my main focus. When I finish a map, sometimes I treat myself to a few levels or whatever. But most of the time I play it, it is just to get accurate intel.
Now, what is the biggest thing you wish you could change about the SNES Donkey Kong Country games?
We're talking about for the potential of a re-release or that sort of thing, or what are you thinking?
Or that's actually a good take on it. But is there something in the game? While you're experiencing the gameplay, is there ever a time where you think, I really wish they would have done this instead of this?
Well, I can't think of any time in Donkey Kong Country specifically where I thought that they did things slightly wrong, but there were things that the sequels did that I wasn't so sure about. They're very minor things, except DKC 3 is a bit more pronounced. I always feel that game has a bit of input lag. Like you press jump and the jump is just that little bit slow. It starts slow and it doesn't really make up for it by finishing quick. It's just a little bit laggy feeling compared to the previous two games. But DKC 2, I missed how if you jumped on a baddie and bounced off, you'd be able to hit any part of the next baddie, so you could be flying upwards still, and in DKC that would knock out the next guy, but in DKC 2 it doesn't. You are defeated if you hit the underside on the bounce, and I missed that, and it's such a small thing, but it makes a difference to my enjoyment.
So why do you think K. Rool really wants Donkey Kong's banana herds? Or banana patch, or whatever it's called. Because there's bananas all over the island, so why do you think he wants that specifically from Donkey Kong?
So we're talking about K. Rool, not K. Rool.
Yeah,
okay.
And his... Well, I guess I watched the TV show too much.
I mean, I don't even know.
It just flows off the tongue easier, so that's why they say it.
Yeah, that's probably true. Potassium. It's got to be the potassium.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he's really evil?
He's definitely done a lot of nasty stuff, and there's not a lot of justification for it.
There was a line in Donkey Kong Country 3 where he mentions a wife, and there's some question as to whether or not that's true or not. What's your take on that?
I can't help but think it was just a pop culture reference, just being funny. There's been no evidence that he does have a wife, but I don't know. I like the idea that the characters we see are just a very, very small subset of all of those inhabitants of the islands. So I'm going to say I love the idea, and there's been no evidence outside of that moment, but why not? Why can't he have a wife? Evil villains deserve to be happy too.
Mm-hmm. There's also a similar mystery in the Mario franchise with Bowser, because I think he has 9 kids, but we have no idea who the mother is.
Yeah, right.
Or at least, yeah.
And often that would be the other way around, that the mother would have 9 kids and doesn't know who the father is.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the mother's the real villain. So who's your favorite Kong?
I think Diddy. I think Diddy would have to be my favorite. And if you need a qualification for that, I think he's the quickest. he's the fastest of all the Kongs. He jumps that little bit higher than Dixie, and Dixie would be probably the next favorite for me. Those two, that's part of the reason why DKC2 was so impressive to me. That having those two Kongs, they were both kind of OP, both excellent players. So yeah, it was great. Diddy would be my favorite.
Mm-hmm. So have you ever actively dedicated a website that wasn't related to Donkey Kong?
Mark, sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
I'm kidding. It's
right.
It's not true. I'm just gonna have to wind up.
That's okay. Well, maybe my question wasn't interesting
No,
enough.
it's plenty interesting. It's just that you could ask me interesting questions all night and I wouldn't get any sleep. So, yeah.
I thought you don't fall asleep till like 4 a.m., right?
That's part of my point. Like we could keep going until then, and I'd still be getting asked interesting questions.
Yeah. It's like 6 p.m. there, right?
Well,
After I leave.
it's about 20 to 8 at the moment in the evening.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, it's early hours yet. But I think quality time with Mrs. Qyzbud takes priority over.
Oh, quality time. So, as in she wants to participate in the interview.
Yes. I'll prep her. I'll give her some interview prep, and maybe next week.
Does she have a message for Is she active on the site?
Yeah, every now and then.
Is she? I guess she is well liked. So, does she have a message for the members of Donkey Kong Country Atlas?
I should clarify that DKC Atlas. It does technically stand for Donkey Kong Country Atlas, but it's only ever known as DKC Atlas.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. What do you say, Mrs. Qyzbud? Do you have a message for the members and the fans of DKC Atlas? You don't have to say.
She's speechless.
I can't think of anything at all.
She's so very put on the spot, and understandably.
All I can think of.
Although I
is
did
the
like,
names of
I did like her
various
YouTube
different
video about the
bodily
chicken.
fluids.
I should have been listening to you, Mark. I certainly shouldn't have been listening to what Mrs. Qyzbud just said. What were you saying?
Oh, well, I was saying I did like her YouTube video about the chickens, or was it chicken walking backwards?
Yeah. That was a thing. That was a thing that's on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she also uploaded a video of you talking to a parrot. Is that parrot still alive?
As far as I know.
Okay. What's your favorite Donkey Kong song?
My favorite Donkey Kong song.
Or music, rather.
Oh, okay.
Too focused. My brain is too much on the TV show,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've always really enjoyed Bayou Boogie, the DKC2 swamp music. Thought that was one of the underrated tracks of DKC2 and the series in general. There'd probably be a lot of others that would. I mean, Donkey Kong Rescued, that music that you hear while the credits are rolling, is just absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that game gets the top marks for music. DKC2 all the way.
Now, as far as my understanding is, there's only one Kong that has actually betrayed them and become evil, Monkey Kong. So do you have a theory as to the explanation for his deviant behavior?
Monkey Kong. I know of a Mankey and a Minky. Those are two Kongs.
You see, yeah, I'm revealing I'm a noob, aren't I? Probably Monkey Kong, yes.
Okay, well, Monkey Kong, the orangutan that throws barrels at Donkey Kong in DKC. That's a cool little throwback to DK's own arcade days. When I say DK's own, obviously Cranky is the original DK. But he, like, that particular drone, was just a really cool throwback, and I enjoyed jumping on his head.
But did you ever imagine his story, his past? You know, what caused him to be that way?
I can't say I did. I didn't really. I've never really given all that much thought to his history. I mean, or like their history, the clan, I suppose, the gang, the orangutan gang. I'm not sure how they formed, but I'll have to go, and I'll leave that thought with you.
Oh, you go where?
Somewhere else, somewhere away from this filthy microphone.
We have to make it to an hour. That'd be good.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Filthy because you look at.
That would be a victory.
Oh well. I'll leave you with one of my favorite
Kremling.
No, I was going to say one of my favorite quotes. That'd help finish things off nicely. But that
We have to be fair. I asked you about your favorite Kong. We have to know your favorite Kremling too. We
Do
don't
we?
want to discriminate now, do we?
But then we have to go through the tikis, and then we have to go through the snowmads.
Well, I'm actually not familiar with. I've never owned a Wii or Wii U, so don't worry. It would just be the Kremlings.
Okay, I'll have to take your word on that one. I always had a fondness for Crushers. I thought those big blue buff army dudes were a pretty cool character that laughed when you jumped on them. Unless you were DK.
Well, Crush's design changes throughout the game, so which one's your favorite?
Well, there is a Crusher in, like, Crusher is the one in the first game, DKC, and then it's.
But doesn't he change color and get powerful as the game progresses? That's my memory, anyways.
Oh, I guess there is a grey variant that requires barrels to be killed. Like, you can't jump on him even as DK. Yeah. What was your question regarding him?
Well, I guess what was did you have? I guess it's kind of cliche, but favorite color of Crusher or whatever.
The classic blue. I liked being able to jump on him.
Because it's the same as the TV show. Favorite cruel design. Because he constantly. Well, actually, there's some people debate whether it's the same reptile or it's someone different, or is he like tripolar, or what's your theory with the whole rule thing?
These questions are getting terrible. Take care now. Bye bye then.
What was the last question?
I don't even remember. But yeah, that's all she wrote.